So I appreciate getting your attention. I'm Brian Krippner. Professionally, I'm a banker. I work for Union Bank. I've been a banker for about 25 years. I kind of still do work in the same area that I interned in 1986, 87, 88. And I am the guy who hired me. I've got his job now. So it's kind of fun. It's been a fun career path in banking. And it's also been a really fun 25 years plus of being a Delta Sig in a variety of different roles, which had titles, but the one I'm most proud of is brother, because that's the one that's brought me the most benefits. Many friendships that I have, and it was fun walking around the room today and seeing a lot of the alumni brothers that I haven't seen for a long time. Most of them, by the way, are not from my home chapter. Right? These are people that I met after that happened. Right? And then there's this young man back here who was at the school at the time that I was, but just to hear. What pledge class were you in?
89.
Okay, so just after I graduated then, right?
You and Amy were still there.
I was still there. I wasn't there. She was there. Anyway, Mark and I go way back. Both brothers of the Avenue chapter at Trinity State University. Called by a different name now. As I mentioned, he mentioned Amy, and that's my wife. I'm married to a Delta Sig, so she understands exactly where I am. And that helps. That helps a lot. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Most of what I'm going to do is just give you free advice, right? I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I observe and some of the advice that I have for you, which you're free, of course. This is a free country, and you're getting free advice from people who are giving it to you for free, and so you are free to do with it as you please. But I hope that you'll find it beneficial. So those are the kind of things we're going to talk about. Obviously, as you transition out of college, and some of you may be doing this already, you'll be living on your own. If you get a chance to live by yourself for a few months, I highly recommend it, because there's nothing like waking up in the morning and finding your stinky socks or other clothes laying around the place and getting mad, and then remembering that it was you who put those there. Learning to live with yourself is an important skill, especially if you're going to turn around shortly thereafter and live with somebody else, or you have a life partner to live with for a long time. That was an important experience for me. I lived on my own the first year after school. Didn't have to, but I did. Found a little $275 apartment in Maplewood, and I stayed there, and that would just work out for me. But I learned a lot about myself here. Managing your debt is going to be a huge issue. If you haven't read in the papers, we have a debt problem in this country. That problem is not necessarily caused by the government or by corporations. It is mostly caused by us. Right? The mortgage crisis was caused by people who borrowed too much. Whether they did that consciously or whether they were suckered into that is a good argument, but it was really about too much debt. So we're having a problem nationally, we're having a problem individually. We need to manage that more proactively over the next couple of decades if we're going to continue to have a lifestyle we have. So that's an important thing. And we'll talk some more about some relationships that are important. But we're going to be in charge of all of these things that you were only quasi in charge of for a while, or that were kind of confined to campus for a little while. You're going to be in charge and responsible for all these things. You get to make choices about all these things and reap the consequences of those choices that are had. So, prepare for constant change, because, and my parents tell me this, my parents are in their early 70s, right? Still very healthy, I'm real lucky. What they say to me is, your generation, different from ours, has to deal with this pervasive, ongoing change, some of which is driven by technology, and some of which is driven by just the big world, or the small world, however you look at it, that it's become. That change is a big deal now. They had to deal with their own amount of change, but for them it was a little bit of a slower shift. It was a slower change. It came about gradually. For us, it's a much more high speed. So professionally, I mentioned I've been in banking. I've never written a letter of resignation. I don't have one on my computer system. I've never thought about how to write it. I never had to do that. I've just continued progressive career, and I've been through 2 divestitures where the bank said, we like you guys, but we don't like the product, and so we're going to sell you to the guys down the street. Pack up all your stuff and move it down the street. I've moved twice like that, and each time I moved 5 blocks down the street. And pretty soon we're going to be in Soulard if they do this again to us, because we're right across from Busch Stadium right now. And, you know, after that, you got White Castle. Maybe that's my next career move, is I have to go to work with White Castle. It's 5 blocks down from the bank. Anyway, I've been through a lot of different stuff, all about change, right? On different accounting systems, on different platforms, and different versions of software, et cetera, et cetera. I've actually been through TWA filed for bankruptcy 3 times, and I was involved in transactions related to all 3 of those bankruptcies. So talk about something that was like, it's like Groundhog Day. It's a gift that kept on giving. That was interesting. Then they finally merged with American, and what happened to American? They filed for bankruptcy. It's like Groundhog Day. Right? So personally, married, children, travel changes you, change spiritually, physically, it's like lots of changes. Right? So in year 1, since this is all about surviving, first year on the job, what are some things that might change? All those things. You want to talk about change? What happened on September 15, 2008? It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't know.
What happened?
They say Lehman Brothers during that time, but...
Yeah, no, that's right. September 15, 2008, it's a Sunday. Filed for bankruptcy on a Sunday. I didn't even know the court was open. I guess you can file electronically or something. I don't know how they did it, but yeah, whole world changed. Think about the guys who started at Lehman Brothers in New York on the 1st of September 2008, right? Just at school, probably just finished their MBA, he's got a great job, worked for Lehman Brothers, best investment bank in the world, maybe, right? Got a nice, 350, 400 square foot apartment in New York City that you're paying $2,300 a month for, or something like that. Something ridiculous like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Life is great, Life is great. Work for Lehman Brothers, be an investment banker. Future so bright, gotta wear shades. That's September 1st, September 15th, what happens? Bye-bye. One of the most pinnacle financial organizations in the world collapses under the weight of debt. Right? And how that, wow, what a nasty experience. Think about all those guys they went through a lot of change, right? More than they ever thought, huh?
That's an interesting story.
Yeah, Lehman is it's going to be studied for years. It's going to be studied for years. Any of you guys are going to stick around, write doctoral dissertations in finance? You got material. You got a ton of material that just came in the last 3 years. Excellent. All right. So anyway, lots of stuff can change. Your training experience, year 1, just be ready for a lot of it to be on the job. There'll be some classroom training to teach you to use some of the systems and stuff like that. Most of what you learn on the job. And if you think it's going to be glorious, you're probably going to be disappointed because some of it's just going to be paperwork. Why? Because you're going to be the lowest paid labor in the force, and you're going to do what's left. Right? Some of it's going to be going down the street to get donuts for everybody, going to a big meeting with a client. You might be in charge of the car rentals and the travel, the logistics, whatever. Don't take that all bad. Everybody has to go through that, and it's just part of the work, right? And just yet another opportunity to show that you can do the work and that you've got a good attitude, no matter what you're called upon to do. So, no worries if you have a little clerical work. There's some clerical work involved in all levels of organizations. So diversity is the new normal. If you watched TV on Tuesday night, maybe? You watched TV Tuesday night? What was on Tuesday night? It was this election. Right, Tuesday night. So, you saw the guys in Boston? You see you guys in Boston at Mitt Romney's celebration, right? And you saw the folks in Chicago, right, in the McCormick Center? Look a little bit different?
Slightly.
What do the guys in Boston look like? First off, it was most of the guys.
They were older, white, rich, not very happy.
Like me? I'm not rich and I'm happy. That's the difference. Yeah, there's a bunch of white guys, right? Old white guys. Yep. And then you look at what do you see at McCormick Center, Chicago?
diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diversity, well, more than diversity of age, diversity of color. Somebody said this morning, or earlier this afternoon on the session, I said, what did you see in Chicago? And they said, confetti. Yeah, and it was confetti. Not only was it real confetti, celebratory confetti, but what they saw was a confetti of people, of humanity, sitting in that room. So diversity is the new normal. I think what you guys, though, what will be different for you then, because you're used to a lot of diversity on campus, right? That comes with the territory. This is a diverse campus. We've got a diverse campus at SLU. It's a generally not quite as diverse as if you were on either of the coasts, but it's a big city. It's the Midwest. There's still some diversity in it, right? The diversity you probably don't have in your college experience day to day, other than dealing with the professors, is this diversity of age, where you have peers and superiors and subordinates, maybe, that are in different generations than you are, right? You guys are millennials, Gen Y, however you want to refer to yourself. I was born in 1966, so I sit solidly on that line between boomers and Gen Xers. My parents are in their 70s. They were born before the start of the Second World War, so they're technically in that traditional generation. Skipped over the boomers, right? Most of my brother and sister and I are clearly in that Gen X, dynamic. But you're going to have to deal with all of those people because they're going to be your peers, and they're going to be your boss, and they're going to be your boss's boss, etc. Right? And the communication styles that come with those different diversity, those different aspects of age diversity, is a big deal because to you all, you've had technology all your lives. You don't remember life without technology. For us, it was something we adapted to and that we were exposed to a little bit in high school, that we came to more fully use in college, but that we really learned on the job. Okay? We didn't have Microsoft Word or Excel or that suite of Office suite of programs. We didn't have that when I was in college. We got it in the office within a couple, 3 years. That's where we learned to use it. Right? We learned technology at work. We learned technology to do work. We learned about email when we had to do it on the CRT. So it's a little bit of a different world for us. And that means that we dance back and forth between, we can form a letter right, we can write policy and procedure, we can text in the shorthand, especially when our kids start sending this stuff. I understand that. My kids are 11 and 7. So the communication is important. I want to tell you all about this client I have that uses the puff theory, right? And we have a different way of expressing that. At the bank, we say 2 limits. We got 2 reply limit on email. If you're sending email back and forth, if you haven't made yourself understood by that second return of email, it's time to talk on the phone about it. Right? Stop the email. When you get that email that's like, Mark, I know you've seen it. It's like 10 responses long. And if you start at the bottom, the topic at the bottom of that email doesn't have anything to do with what they're writing at the top. It has telephone morphed into some other topic that you're off on a tangent about, right? So that's the reason behind the bank thing. My friend or my client says, puff, pick up the freaking phone. Right? That's the message he sends to his folks is, pick up the phone. Stop emailing and pick up the phone. I'm tempted sometimes when I get somehow included in that 7th generation of this message that's just going on for days, between 5 or 6 different people talking about maybe the same thing. I just want to reply to all, puff. Not everyone knows what that is.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound like how you start the word phone, so.
Huh?
Letter F, phone?
Yeah, no, I know what's wrong, but,
Really confusing.
Yeah. And it's, this is unique to my client. He's the only one telling me that. But I like it's pretty cool. That's how he expresses. So anyway, and we'll talk about Big Brother in a second because confidentiality is a big deal. Information is power, and now information flows. I can put more information on the little flash drive that this presentation is on. How many social security numbers and credit card numbers can I carry in something that's this big? Thousands, right? Information is power. It's extremely commoditized, but it's also so dangerous because we can carry it that way, and identity theft's a big deal. My wife's in the fraud business, so I get an earful of this when I come home. So client information is very valuable. Some of that client information is your personal information, so think of it that way. follow that need-to-know rule. Very, very important in my world, especially because we're going to have confidential information. Just about everything I touch, right, falls into some kind of protection. So you want to be very careful with it. I have never seen a situation where people share their own salary information and it turned out to be a good thing that they talked. Never seen that. I don't recommend that you go there. It's just, we could have a long story about why it's not a good idea. My experience is it doesn't do anybody any good. How many of you guys like to be on the cover of the Rolling Stone? I would, but I don't want to be on the news. I don't want to be on the news. It used to be a big, hey, that was on the news. Not as a professional, you don't want to be there because they seldom come and talk to you about something that's going right. And they don't want to talk to you about something that you did well, right? They're fishing for bad stuff. We have a nice thing. The nice thing about being a banker is say, that's private information, it's client information I'm going to talk to you about. And you just leave it at that. But, a lot of people want to put a microphone in your face, and it's just not a good idea. So Big Brother's watching. You all have heard this, but I'll say it because I've seen it happen. Turn out badly is that everything you write, everything that you text on a company BlackBerry, everything that you type when you're remoting into your, to your company's network by VPN, anything that you type in an email or in an instant message at work, all that stuff is retained. All of that stuff can be discovered. All that stuff can be read against you in court. And there are certain computer programs and people who are there to watch for certain key phrases in order to protect the bank's assets, which includes its reputation. Right? Big Brother is watching. And it's the people who think that Big Brother isn't watching, very dangerous people. Yes, sir?
The salary and, when you talk about never discuss your salary, if it ever comes up, say, like in an interview, like what you're looking for, stuff like that, that's not what you mean there, right?
That's not what I mean there. It's about sitting around, and we'll talk about drinking later. It's about sitting around at the bar and talking about what, comparing notes or whatever.
Yeah, they're saying that you're too low or too high. Either one's going to be bad.
Either, it's one of those that you don't want to necessarily be on the receiving end of that conversation because it could either make you feel very inadequate or very awkward, or very superior, none of which are good things to be. And I've never seen it come out, but usually leads to somebody being misled and somebody being an addict.
Yes, not worth it. There's no point to it.
There's no upside to it.
It's like one audience.
Yeah, pretty much, or one down. You don't know what side you're going to end up. Because that's often a negotiated thing, and it often is very hard to understand why somebody's not getting paid the same thing that you are. Right? And if you go and confront your manager about it, he can't tell you about it, right? Because he says, I'm not going to talk about what so-and-so's making because that's confidential information I can't share with you. He said, well, he told me blah, blah, blah. And your manager says, I can't talk about it because, when you get yourself in an awkward situation with your boss, too. And that's just, like I say, I've never seen a situation where it came out to be a good thing. It's just my opinion.
Brian, just real quick, if you're kind of using friends, neighbors, whatever, to try to increase your professional network, and you're approached of what are you making, I find myself doing the range thing. Well, for a beginning, help desk associate, they'd probably be in the range X. If you had X number of experience in years.
Usually those ranges are big enough in companies that,
yeah, it's not really divulging information.
$60,000 and $100,000 that you really haven't told them.
Right. Is that something that you've seen as well, where a conversation would adapt to like a salary range?
I've only had a couple of people that have asked me flat out about the money.
Okay.
Right? And usually it's casual enough that I can say, you know what, I'm a happy guy, I got everything that I need, and that's all. And then you get up and get them another beer and you're on something else. But I've never been totally nailed down by somebody who really wants me to write a dollar number.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I tell you, even in, and I haven't done this very much, but even discussions with competitors when they're interested, I don't put the number on the table for them. I let them tell me about it.
I let them tell me about where they think I might be.
Mhm.
And I let them tell me about where they think I might be with them, but I do the range thing. You know,
Yeah.
that information's gotta come from them.